Hi everyone, my name is Akhilesh Srivastav and today I would be building a simple mobile application which is a to-do task application using Ionic Framework 2. So to start with, I would highly advise you to visit ionicframework.com and then click on version 2, and herein you will find all the documents with all the detailed instruction regarding how to install Ionic 2 on your laptop. So once you have installed Ionic 2 on your machine, open the command prompt and give the following command: start, Ionic start. Let's call our app as to do app, and we will use the blank template, and we will give a version 2. So this will fetch all the required file which is used to create Ionic 2 applications. So once Ionic downloads all the required file which is required to build our app, uh, go inside our folder, that is cd to do app, and then we can give the command Ionic serve lab. So this will compile all the files and then it will open a browser wherein we will get two emulators, one for iOS and one for Android. So this is our sample application which we get through our starter template. We will now go ahead and edit our template files to create our application. In order to edit files, we have to go inside our application folder, and there you will find one app folder where all the application code lives. So here you will find this home folder, and inside that you will find home.html. So we will open this with our favorite editor so that we can do the required updates into this file. So we will begin by updating that title. So instead of home, we will say to do task, and we will give this navbar class primary. Okay, and here we also need to add one button. So we will say Ionic button, and we want to show this button on the right side, so we will add the class end. Oops, it should be end, and inside that container we will add a button, and we will add one icon to it. So we will say icon, and we will say name equals to add circle, and we will close it. We will now go ahead and update our content area. So here we don't need this class home, and we also don't need other stuff. Let's go ahead and remove it. So here we will add one ion list. Okay, and so inside ion list we will loop over our task object, and we will display each task. Uh, so when we will load our app for the first time, so there will be no task to display. So we want to show a message that there is no task, and we can add a new task. So for that we will create one item, and here we will apply a directive, that is njf, and we will say if, oops, So here we will display the message no task, and we will also display a message saying click to add new task, and we will also um, specify the icon of the button. So we will say ion icon and same name equals to add circle. Oops. And we'll close it. Okay, so this will be the if condition when there are no task. But if we have tasks, so we will iterate over our task object and we will display all the tasks one by one. So for that we will say ion item we will use sliding, and here we will use ng for I am not very good in typing, so please excuse me for my slow typing. So we will say, so by specifying hash t, so we are trying to declare a local variable whose scope will be just for this for loop. So this is the way we can declare a local variable. Okay, and then we will add an item. Okay, and so we want to display task name and their priority, and also we would like to show one toggle button to specify whether the task is completed or not. So for that we will show one toggle button here. So we'll say and toggle, and as of now we will just have this empty toggle. We are not going to add the functionality, we will add this later. And then we will say ion label, and here using h2 tag, here we will show the task name. So we can use double curly bracket, and here you can say t dot task, and then below to it we would like to show the priority. So here we can add one a class we would like to show like blue colors for normal, green color for low, and in the same way red color for high task, for high priority task. So we would add one class based upon the priority of the task. So for that we will use this ng class, and then here we will say equals to t dot priority. Okay, looks like I forgot to. Okay, and here we will display the priority. Okay, before we move ahead, I have realized I have made one mistake. It should be ngif. Okay, so in the same way we would also like to add one class on status. So the thing is that what we want to display is like for all the tasks which status is done, we would like to show one strike through. So we will add one class for strike through, and that we will add based upon the condition. So that we would be doing later, but as of now we are just assigning one class, and here we will say t dot status. So I will clear this as we move ahead into this course. Okay, and after that we would like to display two button. So this button will appear on sliding left. So if you want to edit or delete a task, we need to swipe left, and then these two buttons will appear. So let's create button by ion item button. Sorry, options. And here we will create two button. So we will, for edit button, we will add class primary. So we will add the click function later, but as of now we will add one icon to it. So we will say ion icon, and we will say name equals to clipboard. Oops, it should be B. Okay, actually clipboard was the closest icon which was looking like a edit, so I choose that, but it depends upon you, whatever you want to use. So here we'll give the label as edit. In the same way we will create another button for delete. So here we will give the style as danger because we want to display in red color. Same way we will add the function related to it later, and here we will add one ion icon, and we will say name equals to trash. Okay, and here we will give the label as delete. Okay, we will now go ahead and add the classes, but before that we should complete this sentence. We should say add to. Okay, so let's save this, and we will go and edit our home.scss file. So open with your editor. So as of now it is blank, we just don't need it. So we will create our first class, that is high. So for this is for high priority task. So we will give border left as 2 pixels, solid red, and we will give padding left as 4 pixel. Okay, let's copy this. So this will be for normal and this will be for low. Let's change to normal, and for normal it should be blue, and in the same way for low it should be green. And we will create one more task, that is dot done. So it will just strike through. So text decoration equals to line through. So this class will be applied for all the tasks which are in done status. We will now move to our home.js, and we need to do some updates there. So here as of now by default the Ionic gives import page from Ionic Angular, but we also need nav controller. So let's go ahead and include that as well. Okay, and let's include them here by saying static get parameters. here we will say return. So here we have to pass an array. So here in array we have to pass nav controller. Okay, and then we have to create a constructor. And that will be the nav is the is the object for nav controller. So and then we have to say this dot nav equals to nav. Okay, and then we will go ahead and create one task object. We'll say this dot task, and as of now we will go ahead and hard code some task. So we will say task, say task 1, priority we will say low, and then we have to give the status. So let's say it's in pending status. Okay, we'll go ahead and copy this. Let's create few tasks manually. So in the same way, let's say task 2, give this high, give this as task 3, normal, and the same way 4, let's say it is in done status, and 5 we can again give as normal. Okay, we can now go ahead and check our application into the browser, but before that there is a small change which we have to do. Instead of and button, it should be buttons. Okay, let's save the change, and once we, so you can see that the Ionic serve keeps watching the code change, and as soon it will see a new code change, it will automatically update our screen. So this is the output of the screen which we have got. So these are the tasks, and if you can see, all the done task is coming as strike through, and all the priorities like for low, high, we are displaying the colors. This is the toggle button to specify whether the task is completed or not. As of now it is not functional, but we will make it. And if you swipe left, you will get two options for edit and delete the task. If you want to add a task, you have to click on this button, but as of now it is not functional. So on clicking of the plus button, we want to show a model window on which we can add a new task. We will now go ahead and work on our model window. So for that, we have to add a new file. So let's create a new file. So we'll say file new, and let's save it inside our app folder. So inside pages, home, we will call this file as model.html. Okay, and so we will start putting our code here. So we'll start with ion toolbar, and we will add the class primary. Okay, and then we will add a title, we will call it as add task, and then we will add button. to close this window. For that we will use ion buttons. Okay, and then we will add a button. We will add one class light, and on click we would like to call a close function. Okay, and we would also like to add one icon for this close button. So we can say span show when. So when it is iOS, we just want to show a text as cancel. But for Android, we would like to show one button with a cross sign. So we'll say ion icon, name equals to close. Okay, and here we will say show when Android okay. We will now work on the content section. So here we will add ion content. Okay, and then we will use ion list to show our form inside that, and then we will use ion item. Okay, and here we will say ion label, and we will add a class tagged, and we will call that label as task. Okay, and then we will add one input type. So we'll say ion input. We will say type equals to text, and then we will give one ng model, and we will call this as task. Okay, and then we will add another form element that is a select box to select the priorities of the task. So here also the same thing. We will say ion label, and here we will call it as priority. Here we will say ion select. Okay, and here we will give the ng model as priority. Okay, and then we will give the options. So I will say ion option, and here we will give the value as high, and we will give the option as high. We can copy it. In the same way we can say normal. Oops, it should say normal and low. Okay, and then we will add one submit button. So we can say div, let's give some padding, and then inside that we will add one button. It will be full. Let's make it a round button, and on clicking we will save the task, but as of now I'm not going to attach that function right now because we are not working on the save functionality. So we'll do that later. So as of now, we'll just give the label as save. Now let's go to home.js file and include model, and we will also need nav params. Okay, and we will also need view controller. We will now add a show model function. So here we will add a new method, that is show model. Okay, and we will say let model equals to model dot create my model, and then we have to attach to the nav controller. So we'll say this dot nav dot present model. Okay, we will now go ahead and create a my model component. So we can do that in the same home.js file. So for that we have to create one more page, and here we have to give the template URL as build slash pages slash home dot model dot html. Okay, and then we will add a class my model. Okay, and then we will say static get parameters, and we will return. So here we will be needing nav controller, and then nav params. As of now we don't require nav params, but we will need it later, so I'm just including it now itself. And then we need view controller. Okay, and then we'll create a constructor, and we need nav params and view controller. Okay, and then we will say this dot nav equals to nav. In the same way, this dot view controller we will now create a close method to close this window. So we will say close, and then we will say this dot view controller dot dismiss. So this dismiss method will close the window. We now have to call this show model method. So we have to go to our home.html, and here we have to say button on click equals to show model. Let's save this file, and before we can reload our application, we have to add here in model.html, we have to add start class so that the close icon appears properly. So if you go ahead and update our application, so you will see that now click on this plus button in iOS, we get this model window wherein we can add a new task. So this is how it appears in iOS, and once you click on Android, this is how it appears on the Android. So as of now, all the data is coming from the hard-coded object, but now we will go ahead and use Ionic 2 as a SQL storage API to store all the data into the Web SQL DB. So for that, we will create a DB service. So for that, we will create a new folder under app folder, and we will call this folder as service. Okay, and we will create a new file, and let's save this file, and we will uh, call this file as db service. Okay, so we will now import storage and SQL storage. Okay, from Ionic Angular, and so since it's a service, so it has to be injectable, so we will say import injectable. It should be curly brackets, and it will come from Angular 2 core. Okay, and we will use the decorator as injectable, and then we will create a class. So we can export this class, so let's add the keyboard export class, and we'll call this as db service. Okay, and then we will create our constructor, and we will say this dot storage is equal to new storage, and we will pass SQL storage. Okay, and then we will say this dot storage dot query, and here we will say create table, if not exist, and we will call this table as table task, and we will give id as integer, and it will be primary key, and it will be auto increment. Okay, and next column will be task, and this will be of type text. Then priority, it may be also of type text, and then status text. Okay. So in order to make this video short and simple, I am not doing the proper error handling, but I would highly advise you that please do the proper error handling while you are creating your apps. So now we will create a function which is get task. Okay, and so here we will say return and this dot storage dot query, and here we will say select star from table task. Okay, we will now go ahead and include this service into our app. So before that we have to put parenthesis and constructor. Let's save it. So we want this service to be available for throughout our application. So for that we will go to our app.js, and here we will say import sorry, it should be curly brackets db service. Okay, and I will say from dot service slash db service. Okay, and then after the template you have to call it using providers. And here we will say db service. Okay, we will now go ahead into our home.js home.js file and call our db service there. So here we will say import, and here again we will say db service. From service slash, okay, the physical path of the file, and then here we have to call it in get parameters. So we will say comma, and we will inject here db service. Okay, and then the nav we will say, after nav we will pass one more argument, that is db service. Okay, and now we can get rid of this hard-coded objects. Okay, and here we will say this dot db service equals to db service. Okay, and then we will call the function show task. Okay, we will now go ahead and create this show task function. So we will say show task, and here we will say this dot db service dot get tasks dot then and then we can use the fat arrow function here. Okay, so the thing is that we will be using this show task function whenever we are going to add a task or we are going to delete the task. So for that, it will be always be better that we should reset our task object. So let's reset it here, and then um, looks like I have to indent it, and then we will say if sorry, data dot result dot rows dot length is greater than 0, so then only we will go ahead and display our records. So after that we will loop over the written records. So we'll say for where I equals to 0 and I less than data dot result dot rows dot length. Let's copy it from here and we will say I plus plus. Okay, and then we will push all these objects into our task array. So we will say this dot tasks dot push, and here we will say first is id, and for that we will say data dot result dot rows dot item of I dot id. So let's copy this because we will be using it for a number of times, and here we will say the next key will be task. Here we will say task and then priority, so here also priority, and the last one is the status. Okay, so now before we can run this app, I missed one equal to sign here, so let's fix this. And so once we reload our app, so you can see that now it's picking the data from the local storage, and as of now there is no task, so that's why the message is displays no task. Click this plus symbol to update or add a new task. So we will now go ahead and work on the add new task functionality. So we will begin by creating another function into our DB service. So we'll call this function as save task, and here we will pass one item object, and here we will say return and this dot storage dot query, and we will say insert into table task priority and status. Then we will give the values. So here we will give item dot task and in the same way we will say plus item dot priority. Okay, and so the last is the status. So for all the new added task, we will hard code it to pending. So we can make it, we can just type pending here. Okay, and we will now work on the save functionality in our home.js file. So here for that we need two more components, that is alert and action sheet. We will now go to our my model class, and here we will require DB service. Okay, and in the same way we need to include DB service here. So we'll say this dot DB service equals to DB service. And then so what we want to do is like uh, whenever user is trying to create a new task, so we want to pre-select the priority to normal. So for that we can say this dot priority equals to normal. Looks like we have to put it in hard code, sorry, in quotes. Okay, we will now go ahead and create our save task function. So let's do it after the constructor function. So we will say save task. Okay, so first we will make a check that if user has entered a value in the task. So we'll say if this dot task equals to undefined. So we will say this dot nav dot, so we'll show a alert box, and then here we will say alert dot create. Okay, and here we will give title, and title will be, let's say, warning. And then we will say subtitle, and subtitle we will say as please enter task, and then we will say buttons. As of now we will just display one button. So here we can say okay, okay, and then in the else part we will create our object, when item object. So we'll say let new item equals to, so here we will say task as this dot task, and priority equals to this dot priority. And we will now call our function. So this dot db service dot save task, and here we will pass the item object. So here it is, new item. Okay, okay, and after this we will show a success uh, alert box saying that uh, the uh, the task details has been saved. So we'll say this dot nav dot present, then here we will say alert dot create title, will give success, and here we'll give the subtitle as task added. Okay, and then we'll show buttons. So here we will say text as okay, and on clicking we want to uh, close our window. So for that we will call our handler. So handler function will, so we will use the fat arrow function here, and we will say this dot close. So this function will close our uh, model window after we saved our task. Before we can move ahead, I have noticed there are some issues. So here I forgot to include DB service, and here the spelling of item is incorrect. So let's go ahead and fix this. We'll go ahead and save it. And in model.html, here we have to call our save task function. So we'll say on click, here let's call save task. Okay, so let's save this and reload our application. Before we can test our app, one last thing is remaining. So as soon we add a new task, we want to refresh our view where all tasks are displayed. So for that, here we have to say uh, here we have to say model on dismiss, dismiss, and then here we have to call our this dot show task. Okay, we will now go ahead, save this and test our app. So we can click on plus button to add a task. So as you can see, the priority has been set default to normal, but we can change the priority here. And so you can see our task is added. Let's go ahead and add some more task, like go to market. Maybe this priority is high. Let's add one more task. Okay, so we will now go ahead and work on the edit task functionality. For edit task functionality, we need to do two things. One, we need to pre-select the task, the selected task, which needs to be edited, and then we need to write an update query. So for that, we will go ahead into our dbservice.js and we will work on our get task function. So here we will pass one more argument, that is id. So if if this function the value of id is undefined, it means we want to select all the tasks from the table task, and if the id is passed, then it means we are planning to select a the unique task. So for that, so let's add one condition. So we'll say if id equals to undefined. So this means that we need to select all tasks. So let's oops so let's select this, and then in else condition, so here I think we can use the same, but here we will say where and we will pass the id. Okay, and we also need to update our save task function. So apart from item object, we also need to pass the id. So here also we have to apply the same logic. So we will say if id equals to undefined. Okay, so it means that we have to insert a new task. Let's control X and let's do control V, and in else let's copy this part. So here we have to okay, so here we have to say update table tasks set equals to item dot task. Okay, and then we will update priority. Okay, and then here we have to say where id equals to after that we will go to our model.html, and here since we have hard-coded add, so we will change this title based upon whether we are adding a task or editing a task. So here we will add a new variable label. Okay, let's save it, and after that we will go to our home.js file to make the other changes. So here we need one more object, that is this dot tasks. and we will, so it will be a blank array. Okay, and then we need to capture the task ID, so we'll say this dot task ID equals to params dot get, and here we will pass the task ID, and we will check if this dot task ID, oops, not equals to undefined. So it means we are going to edit this record. So we'll say this dot label equals to edit. Okay, and then we will call the service dot get task, and then here we will pass the task ID, this dot task ID dot then okay, and here we will say this dot task equals to data dot result dot rows dot item of 0 dot task, and maybe we can copy this, and here we will say priority. Okay, and then in the else condition, so we'll say this dot label equals to add new task. So we'll just say add new because task is already hard coded there in our form, and then we will say this dot priority equals to normal. So we want that our priority drop box should be default selected to normal in case we are adding a new task. We will now work on our save task function. Before that, in task ID it should be, I should be capital. Okay, so here in our save task method, so here we have to pass one more argument, that is this dot task ID. Okay, and here we have to check one condition, so we'll say if this dot task ID equals to undefined, okay, so here we will say where message equals to task added, okay, or else we will say task updated. Okay, and then here instead of saying task added, we will pass this variable message. Okay, and now we need to pass the task ID. So for that we need to go and update our show model method. So here you have to say show model, and then here you have to pass the task ID. So we'll say task ID, okay, and let's pass the ID here as well. Okay, after this we will go to our home.html file, and remember we had created two buttons, edit and delete. So here for edit we will say on click, and here we will pass show model function, and here we will pass the ID t.id. Before we can test our app, I have realized that we have made one small mistake. So in home.js, so this subtitle should be not capital S, it should be small s. So let's fix it quickly and reload our app. So now you can see once you swipe left, you will get these two options, edit and delete. So click on edit. So here you will get a window with the preloaded task details. So here you can uh, edit the task. Let's change its priority to high. Click save. So now you can see that this task is updated and its priority is also updated. We will now work on the delete task functionality. So let's begin with first the HTML file. So here we will call another function uh, that is del task on clicking this delete button, and here also we will pass t.id. Okay, let's save it. Let's go to our home.js, and just after this show task we will create our del task function, and here we will pass id. So for deleting the task, we first want to show one action sheet controller, which will prompt user that whether they want to remove or cancel, and based upon their selection we will delete the task. So let's start calling our action sheet component. So we'll say this dot nav dot present, and here we will say action sheet dot create. Okay, and here we will say as title as remove task, and then we will give buttons. Oops, that should be square bracket, and then we will say as text, delete, and then we will give style as destructive. Okay, and then we will give handler. Okay, and here we will call this dot db service dot del task. So this del task method we will be creating in our db service, and then we will say dot then okay, and then here we will show our alert box. So we'll say this dot nav dot present, and here we will say alert dot create okay, and here we will say okay, and subtitle as task removed, and we will give buttons as, so let's indent it, so we'll give text as okay, and then handler as and then we will call our and then we will update our task list. So for that we need to call this dot show task function. Okay, let's check that we have closed all of our brackets. So okay, and here we have to create another button for the action sheet. So here we will create a cancel button, and its style will be cancel, and here also handler and here we will say console.log so we just want to console log if someone has clicked on cancel button. However, it is not required, but it depends upon you whether you want to check if the user has clicked on the cancel button. We will now go ahead and uh, update the DB service, and we will add the delete method. So for that we will go to our DB service, and here we will add a method that is known as del task. So just after the save task, let's have a del task, and here also we will pass the ID, and here we will simply say, let's copy this, and here we will say delete from table task where id equals to id. Before we can test our delete functionality, I have realized that in our home.js file I have done two mistakes. So it should be del task, and I have missed colon after buttons. So let's fix this, save this, and reload our app. So let's go ahead, we can add one more task, just say for delete. Okay, and let's swipe left. You will get two options, edit and delete. Click on delete, So here you can see you can see one action sheet. This is how it appears in iOS. If you click delete, this task will be removed. And let's check the same functionality in Android. So if you can swipe left, you will get the delete button, and when you click delete, so this is how the action sheet appears in Android. You click delete and you get this message, and the task is removed. We will now work on this done task functionality. For that we have this toggle button. So to start with, we will go to our dbservice.js and we will create one more method, and we will call this as done task, and here we will pass the ID and status. Okay, and then here we will say if status equals to pending, so we will say status equals to done, else status equals to pending. Okay, and then we will update this. Then we will say return this dot storage dot query, and we will say update, that should be in the quotes. We'll say update table task, and we'll say set status equals to status. Okay, where ID equals to ID. We will now go in our home.html, home.js file, and add a new method, that is done task. Looks like I have written, it should be tell task. Let's fix this in our HTML also. Oops, so here also it should be tell task. Okay, let's fix this. And okay, so here we will add done task, and here we will pass ID and status. Okay, and here we will say this dot db service dot done task, and here also we will pass ID and status. Okay, and he'll say dot then data, and okay, and here we will say this dot nav dot present, and then here we will say alert dot create. So we want to show an alert box. Okay, and here we will give title as success and subtitle as task status updated. And then we will show buttons. and here we will say as text. Okay, and then we will give handler. And then we'll call this dot show task. Okay, let's check all the brackets are closed. Okay, we will now go ahead and update our home.html to update this done task functionality. So here in ion toggle, here we will say checked equals to, and here we will say t dot status equals to pending. So if it is pending, then we will say that status is equal to false, else we will set it as true. Okay, and then on click we'll call this our done task function. So we'll say done task, and here we will pass t dot id and t dot status, that is the current status. Okay, let's save this file and update our app. So now once you click on this toggle button, you get the message task status updated when you click OK. So this task is we applied the style strike through, and we can test for other also. And if we want to cancel it, we have to just click on the toggle button again, and we are done. We will now go ahead and import our application into Android Studio so that we can test our app onto the emulator. So for that, we will go to our terminal window. We can give the command Q to stop the server, and now we have to add a platform, that is the Android platform. So for that, we will type the command Ionic platform add Android. So this will fetch all the files which is required by the Android platform. And once we are done, we need to compile it or build it. So we will run the command Ionic build Android. So this will take a moment, and then it will build our application. So once the build completes, we will open Android Studio, and we can import our project inside it. So once this is open, we have to click on import project, and then we have to choose this Android folder which is inside the platforms folder, and click OK. So this will import all the necessary files, and we can see our application file when we open this project tab. So all our application files can be found inside this asset folder. Inside that we have W folder and build folder. So all our files are here. Okay, so in order to run this, we have to click on this button. So this will launch the ADB, and we can click OK. So this will launch the AVD or the virtual device. Takes a moment. So this is how our app looks when it runs on the emulator. So let's go ahead and add some tasks. So as you can see, there is no task, so that's why it is saying no task. Click on this plus button to add a task. So let's add some dummy tasks. So let's say task 1. Let's leave its priority as normal. Maybe task 2. This time maybe priority low. Then maybe some more tasks like read book. Let's give high. In the same way, let's add one more task. Go to walk. Let's give priority as high. Okay, so you can see all the tasks are displayed here, and the color code is displayed as per the priority of the task. So we can edit any task by swiping left. So we will get these two options. Let's click on edit. So here we can say task say 101. Let's change priority from normal to low. Click OK. So you can see that our task is updated. In the same way, we can mark a task as done by clicking on this toggle button, and you can see this task has been struck off. In the same way, if you want to delete a task, just swipe, click on this delete button. We will see this action sheet. Click on delete, and it will say task has been removed, and all the tasks are updated on the screen. So this brings end to this tutorial. I hope you might have enjoyed my video. I will post all the source code on the GitHub, and I will also provide the link to it. Your comments, suggestions, and critics are always welcome. Thanks again for watching my video.